All right, everyone, we're going to start in a little bit. We're just, we had to upgrade this channel to a webinar because we had too many signups today. So we're just transitioning. So just give us a couple of moments to get all the people in. Some of them are still on the previous link. Just getting some people into this chat. I know there's a couple of people that were on time. Bill, Owen, Yanuar. Thanks for being early. We're transitioning to a new a webinar mode, and I think there's some people that were on the other chat, so we're going to try to get as many of those people here as possible. So just give us a couple of more moments, and we'll start. All right, let's get started. Malay, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, let's just get all this stuff. Let's change the background. Well, let's get some. Let's go back to our roots. This one here, Startup Bingo. What do you think? We should talk a little bit about this.
Great.
This one works. I haven't done this one in a while. So good to be back. Nalay, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Now we are live on Facebook, live on Facebook and LinkedIn right now. So we'll be sharing that. Hopefully those links are popping. We're gonna start. I know there's a little bit of a confusion today on some of the Zoom pieces, but that's kind of a growing pains component as you start to scale. Nalay, I'm going to do a quick sound check. Tell me if you can hear what I'm writing. Let's hear if you can. Is that all there, Nalay? You're able to hear that? Is that okay?
Yep.
All right.
Here it well.
All right, let's jump to the next slide. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Ash Singh, and I'm going to be running this masterclass with you guys today. Just a couple of housekeeping items, just some of the rules and expectations. We want you to learn, contribute, make this a powerful learning experience, but feel free to please respect the opinions of everyone else, and we'll maintain a certain element of confidentiality around this session. Just keep that in mind as we go through. If you do want to participate, there is a chat channel here, and Nalay, who is my co-professor, will be able to help administer that. So I think we all know how Zoom works now. This is the process. So we'll input your details here. We'll jump into a couple of quick introductions. Nalay, I know that Some of these people don't know who we are, right? Some of them aren't our former students. You want to give a quick introduction to yourself?
So, hey guys, my name is Nilay Goyal, and I'm a professor of entrepreneurship at York University. I've been an entrepreneur. I've built multiple companies. I sold my first company at the age of 23 and have been helping entrepreneurs since then. I co-founded two accelerators at two of Canada's largest universities. I was the co-founder and founding associate director of the Creative Construction Lab at the Rotman School of Business at University of Toronto. And I started the Launch You program at York University as well. Over the years, I've worked in different industries in M&A and in as a consultant as well. But most importantly, I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs with varying levels of success and in diverse industries. And so far, my mentee startups have been able to raise over $275 million in funding. And today, I love what I'm doing. I love to see entrepreneurs succeeding, and I'm hoping that some of you, would be, I could be a part of some of your journey as well, and help you guys with your entrepreneurial endeavors as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Malay. Just a quick introduction to myself. My name is Ash Singh. Also went through the entrepreneurial journey pretty early on in my working career. I built my first company when I was on exchange in Hong Kong. We built a social networking software company, which we sold in Singapore in 2004. From there, we raised $10 million to build the largest private loyalty program for McDonald's in the region, which was my next startup, and went on to build a couple of other companies. I've spent some time as an angel investor over the last 12, 13 years. And so between me and my wife, we've invested and been a part of just under 100 companies now. But spent most of my time teaching, because when I completed my first exit, I really wanted to understand the journey that I went on, and so we've been teaching entrepreneurship and startup at some of the top institutions around the world, including INSEAD, the Ivy Business School, IIT. So really excited to share with you guys some of the research and the understanding around what we've been doing. But not just from a research perspective, but from a practical perspective. The programs that we've run, the leading indicator of a successful program is basically on the one metric. The one metric around the entrepreneurship is around funds raised. And our startups have raised over $1 billion of capital over the last 10, 12 years. We've had the opportunity to spend time with over 5,000 entrepreneurs. So we've learned a lot of patterns, and we've taught this program around the world. And so there's a lot of interesting insights that we've had that we hope that you will find over this session. We've had the opportunity to teach at the high school, college, university, as well as the corporate level. And there's patterns that you start to see in terms of what different stakeholders are looking for. And we're going to share some of that with you today. These are some of the markets that we're currently operating in. Now, I know with COVID-19, we're not all there. But hopefully at some point in the future, we will be able to interact with you in person when all of this is settled. Now, one of the beauties of my job and what I do is being part of the journey with these startups. So we've had some great startups. The ones on the bottom are ones that Nilay has worked with, and the ones on the top were ones that started with our Startup Bootcamp program. And you can see some of the results that they've achieved. And it's really exciting today to be a part of the journey of seeing them go through, raise some money, and then bring them back to be part of our program. So you see there are some of the startups that have been involved, and we also have a slew of investors that are part of our ecosystem. And another thing around this is around job creation. In COVID-19, we're looking for ways to reignite job creation. So it's really exciting to be a part of that journey right now. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we progress. Now, moving ahead, we did do some participant research, right? So we looked everyone up. We spend time. One of the reasons our programs at INSEAD and Ivy do so well is we take a little bit of an extra effort. So I just wanted to honor and recognize all the people that have decided to join on their time. It's great to see the diversity. It's great to see the mix of people's knowledge and experience that have taken some of their time to join us today. So thank you very much. I know some people were having a little bit of a challenge on the Zoom feed. I do apologize. We had to upgrade our Zoom feed because of the fact that we just had too many people looking to attend. So hopefully you've sorted that out, right? So again, just wanted to thank everyone. I couldn't find everyone, so some people are not available on the World Wide Web, and that's totally okay. But what we're going to do today, we're going to have this masterclass, and we're going to kick it off with just kind of an understanding around where we are in this post-COVID-19 era. Now, this is a video that was created 4 years ago. And this is just a way for us to level up. It also gives me an opportunity to have a bit of my coffee. But it's going to help us level up and understand where we are in today's dynamic. Okay, so I'm going to play this video for you.
If you're watching this, you're among the 3% of people that understand that the future of work is going to look very different from what it is now. So keep watching. Let's see where we're heading. It's also exciting, right? Siri will recognize your voice even if you're 5 meters away from your phone. That new chatbot feels totally real. Self-driving cars are no longer fiction. You can analyze your DNA. You tried flying that drone for the first time, and you're thinking of buying a smart speaker to make your life so much easier. A few years from now, and that's something like 3 years, not 30, artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, mass 3D printing, biotechnology, chatbots, virtual reality, deep learning, drones, augmented reality, smart objects will all be deeply enrooted in our everyday lives, just like computers, phones, or electricity are for us today. Oh well, is this really gonna happen? And if it does, you'll adapt when the time comes, right? Life is good. You love your job. You've been working for this established company for a few years. You're comfortable in your position. You know what you're good at. People like you, and that last presentation you gave got you some amazing reactions. You're safe with your company. In the meantime, you see an article or two speculating on the future of jobs. McKinsey published a report stating that 45% of all current tasks could be automated with present technology. The World Economic Forum estimates that 33% of jobs in 2020 don't even exist yet. But what do they know, right? You've got time. Oh look, the supermarket just introduced self-cashier machine. You're at the airport checking in luggage. What the heck happened to all the real people at the check-in desk? Gone. Replaced by machines. But it's only the low-skilled jobs, right? Nope. Think again. In 2012, there were 150,000 humans working on Wall Street. 3 years later, automation has cut that number down to 100,000. That's 1/3 gone. But it's only the mathematical and scientific jobs, right? Nope. Think again. This Japanese insurance company, Fukuoka Mutual Life Insurance, is already replacing all its human insurance claim workers with an AI system that will handle customers more efficiently. See these articles? They're written by algorithms, and we can't tell the difference with human written content. And thinking of converting yourself to being an online poker player? Too late. There's an AI that can already beat humans at it. Most journalists, tax consultants, marketeers, technicians, knowledge workers, lawyers, even the person editing this video right now will to some extent have been impacted or automated by technology in a couple of years. And what have you been doing? Probably watching Netflix. And the problem is, the machines don't wait. And the machines, they don't watch Netflix. So what are the forces at play here? Basically, there's 10 million developers out there using increasingly simple and cheap technology to build new products and services. Some as young as 12 are already coding the future. Even that safe company you work for is increasingly under outside threat. And it's not just the Google, Amazon, Facebooks, and Apples of the world that I'm talking about. There are now tens of thousands of startups out there eating away at all sorts of jobs. Now, are they creating many jobs in the process? Let's look at some stats. Travel a bunch of years back to when Kodak ruled the world of photography. They They were worth $38 billion and employed 140,000 people. That's approximately $270,000 per employee.
Our people work with pride to make Kodak a creative and innovative company.
Fast forward to recent times, YouTube sold for $1.65 billion with a mere 65 employees. That's $25 million per employee. Instagram, which had 13 employees and was sold for $1 billion. That's $77 million per employee. WhatsApp sold for $19 billion with 55 employees. That's a staggering $345 million per employee. So how is this all possible? Technology has allowed the emergence of what we call exponential organizations. These are exponentially fast-growing companies that leverage technology and require less employees but more tech-savvy ones.
You will find that we are technology optimists. We believe that technology is a major driver of change in the world.
And as software continues to eat up the world, more companies are trying to replicate these exponential companies, hire less people but grow exponentially through technology. As this happens, job roles are slowly disappearing and being replaced by skill sets. Employers require you to know an ever-growing number of new and ever-changing fundamental skills in order to use the technologies they've implemented. Master the fundamentals and you can master the rest. A digital skills gap is growing for both mid-skill and high-skill level jobs. Before you know it, you've become irrelevant. But wait, what's this doomsday message? There's actually a way to leverage technology before it leverages you. And in fact, it's never been easier to do so. This might sound kind of corny, but it starts with the right state of mind. It starts with having a growth mindset, where you have the desire and the confidence that you can learn anything. Shift your thinking on how these technologies will rattle and mutate, but enrich your work life. Because yes, if you play your cards right, technology will make your work life and your life in general much, much better. The fact is that technology will actually remove boring, repetitive jobs from your way, but only if you understand the fundamentals. And you have no excuse not to do so. How can you stay relevant if you can't talk the lingo? How can you stay relevant if you can't execute? Can you talk tech? Can you talk APIs? Can you talk code? Can you talk data? While slow educational institutions are struggling to keep up, that's not an excuse. Train yourself, take your education in your own hands. Learn to code, learn about behavioral psychology, automation tools, playing with data, user experiences, be curious. And if you're an employer, train your people. Online and offline courses have never been more readily available or rich in content. It's time to build something. Your greatest credential in this new era is your output of stuff. Proof of your awesomeness. A website, a blog, a prototype, a simple data model. It's time to build cool stuff and showcase it. It's time to start learning. It's time to get shit done. It's time for your growth.
All right. So I think this kind of sets the context as to kind of where we are right now as an entrepreneur. What are the different dynamics at play? And if you think about where this video plays in a COVID-19 era, it's only accelerated things. You know, you have this digital disruption pathway where different industries are being disrupted. With COVID-19, it's kind of just, you know, put that on steroids. And so we want to understand kind of where the world is at, because when you think about why first-time founders fail, part of it is just understanding the basic mechanics around how startups work. And if you can see the stuff that's circled behind me, there is team execution and timing, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we progress through the session, right? And one of the things that I'm going to talk about are the 12 keys to startup success. Now, what we did when I started teaching at INSEAD, and if you are curious as to how my startups, the students that were involved in our programming, were able to raise so much money, is we spent a lot of time researching why first-time founders fail. And we interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs around the world, and we discovered that almost all of them, 99+% of them, failed for the same 12 reasons. And so what we're going to do is we're going to not only talk about them, so you're going to learn and you're going to be able to connect the dots and use this time as kind of a personal reflection, but we're also going to spend some time to share with you frameworks on how to tackle it. So we're going to try to make this as productive as possible, okay? So I'm going to go through this right now with you, and we can cover all of the pieces. So I'm going to go through the 12 processes now. The first 3 steps, right, and this is in a specific order, is around the starting point. The first one is a lot of startup founders actually don't have a good idea, right? Now, what does a good idea really mean? It means that it's probably not the right time. It's a derivative idea. It doesn't have the right depth to actually create something sustainable and doesn't have the right trajectory. A lot of people don't think about ideation properly, right? And so the thing is the first step is making sure you have a good idea. The other components that startup founders lack is making sure they have the right foundational components. Are they operating in the right country? Are they incorporated properly? Do they have their shareholders agreements? Do they have the right frameworks around them to actually make sure that the product's going to work, right? And so the last component of the first phase is that they don't think big enough, right? They're only thinking about an idea that's going to pay them a salary. They're not thinking about $100 million idea. And so when you're thinking about your journey, you want to think about these components as your starting point. And the way I like to describe it is think about a plant, right? You need to make sure you have that healthy seed of an idea. And you need to make sure, I've just, with COVID-19, I've learned a lot about planting. So I'm using it as my example, but you need to have the right foundational components, the right soil, the right mixture. You have to make sure all of those components are right, and you have to give it enough. If you're growing cucumbers or tomatoes, which we've learned grow really high, you got to make sure that you're thinking how you think about where this could go, right? And a lot of people don't do that effectively, and they don't have the right inputs to make sure they make those right decisions. Moving forward on the top 12 reasons, another reason they don't succeed is they don't actually have a distinct value proposition. They don't think about the reason why people are going to pay them for their product or service. They don't think about the pains, the gains, the benefits properly to really understand why people will give them money. Okay. And so there's a way of looking at that to make sure that when people look at your product, they're like, wow, you can do that? Sign me up. I want to be your first beta tester. I want to, check it out and make it work, right? And so that's another challenge. Another challenge we see is that startup founders normally just start building their business where they're currently living, right? They don't think about where is the best place on the planet for them to launch this business, okay? And so you have to think about how you assess the market properly. Another challenge that first-time founders have is this idea of a minimal viable product, an MVP. They're unable to, when you're creating something, be able to figure out what are the features in your first product, and second, the first set of products that people need and love, and you're willing to focus on before you run out of money. So a lot of founders run out of money because they don't get the product off the ground. But part of that is understanding how to build a minimal viable product. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. Another thing is they're unable to do sales, right? Universities are pretty terrible in teaching sales, even at business schools, right? Where I teach, there's not a course on how to sell. And so the idea of getting a startup going is this concept of getting your first 100 customers, because you might have some people that are very good at leveraging their network for their first 10 or 20 customers. But once you start to get to 30, 50, 100, you start to get to that mode where you really need to understand how to sell your product to people you don't know. And so understanding how to do customer development is also a challenge. Moving forward, once you start getting the business going, a lot of startup founders are unable to execute their business efficiently. They don't know what to prioritize first, because a startup is a unique concept. It's not like running a dental clinic. You know what you need to do. There's a step-by-step process in how to run a dental clinic or how to run a coffee shop, right? But when you're building a digital company or something, there's no recipe. So understanding how you go level by level and understanding how to get a priority matrix is very important. The other thing, and this is the number one reason why startup founders fail, is they run out of cash. They run out of cash and they don't know what to do. And if you run out of cash, your business is dead. So the idea of understanding cash flow modeling and how to remain profitable is very important. Another thing that startup founders fail at doing really well is understanding how valuations work. So we all know that Uber is worth $50 billion, but how do you step by step increase the value of your business? Because you start with an idea is probably worth nothing, but you get your first product to the market. Is it worth 50,000, 100,000? And then all the different steps that you take. How do you create value and how do you raise your valuation? So at least as you're building your business while you're working so hard, and even if you don't have an exit, you know you're raising the paper value of the startup, right? So these are the other financial and executional components that startup founders fail at. Another component that they're unable to do is build the right team. A lot of founders find the wrong people to work with. And again, if you look at my background, it's about team execution and timing. And what you want to be able to do is make sure you find the right team to work with. And that includes your core team members, your co-founders, your outsourced team, you know, the people that you hire that might be virtual, your board of advisors and your board of directors, right? Another thing is there's this concept of founderitis. There's a concept where over time, people's mental health and relationships change. You know, entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey. And we've discovered that another reason why startup founders fail is they're unable to develop the right ecosystem around them and their startup to make sure that their mental health is also protected. Another challenge that they face, which is number 2 here, is raising investment. They don't know where to raise money, how much to raise, and how much time they need. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. Finally, on the last tail end, what we've discovered is that a lot of first-time founders are unable to sell their vision. They're unable to do a powerful, impactful elevator pitch to guide them through the journey and get the investors excited, right? So storytelling, right? How do you sell that vision? How do you make sure that works at different areas? And remember, every pitch is different. And how do you make sure it's authentic is a challenge with first-time founders. And then finally, just making sure that they have the right pitch deck, they have the right executive summary, and you've covered all the right bases, and you don't fail due diligence, right? Because that's another reason why, sadly, why founders fail. So these are the top 12. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make this live, right? Now, Nalay, how you doing, buddy? You're well? What we're going to do today is we do this a lot, and again, I want to just take a moment to apologize for the slight Zoom glitch, because I know some more people have joined us today. We do apologize. We had to increase the capacity, so we had to change the room. So I do apologize for the kind of dual registration that some people had to go through. But we're going to jump in and we're going to run a poll, because we can make this as real as possible. Okay, we've done this a lot, so we just want to make sure it's relevant for you. So I've launched a poll just asking what you want to learn today, right? I mean, we have this rare opportunity. The universe has connected us. We've been teaching all these different concepts for a very long time, but think about what are the areas in your journey that you think that you want to spend a little bit of time on. And I'm going to walk you through that, right? I mean, this is just an opportunity for you to learn, to create some value. There's some feedback that's coming in around raising investment, value proposition, you know. And what we're going to attempt to do, and this is a challenge, Nalay, should we take the challenge? Should we take the Starbucks challenge, Nalay? So the challenge today is this. If we don't provide value for you, we will send you a link to a free Starbucks gift coupon. So that's a challenge. I like to make it important for us to create value. So we want to make sure you learn something today, something powerful on your journey, right? So please give us your feedback. So I'm gonna end the poll now, and there's a lot of people looking. I'm gonna share the results for some transparency. There's people that are looking to execute the startup efficiently. There's questions around value proposition, getting investment. Nalay, am I looking at that correctly? Yep. Right? And what I'm going to do, just for everyone else, I'm going to cover briefly all the other components as well. And I'm going to try to do this in a very short period of time. So I'm putting myself on the spot. So let's see how we do. Now, the journey that I'm going to walk you through, right? Because you know, we're in Zoom. We're not in the same environment. We're going to try to do this all over Zoom. But the first step is to understand a little bit about how startup frameworks have evolved. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but this is the business model canvas. Okay, this is a canvas that was introduced in 2005 as a tool to get a quick snapshot of where a startup is at. Okay, and there's been evolutions, Nalay. There's been the lean canvas, which is a little bit different, right? And I don't know exactly, you know, how much of an increase, but there was a couple of evolutions on this. And basically, a lot of startup founders around the world put this together and look at it. And our challenge when we were going through, and you know, we teach startup around the world, what we found is that the content was actually not that suitable for startups, right? There's a couple of other areas here that we found were challenging for first-time founders. It lacked a way for people to get educated, okay? And it didn't cover all the steps that you need to go on the startup journey. It also didn't provide any actionable insights. You know what I mean? How do you make the startup founder smarter? And it didn't tangibly help the founder in key areas of building the startup, selling their product, and raising funds. And the other thing is it just wasn't exciting. My students weren't finding this as exciting. So Nalay and I embarked on a journey to really rethink about how we can activate and make sure that startups have exactly what they need at the right time to answer these key questions. And so what we did is we said, okay, let's at these top business schools and engineering schools around the world, you know, we had all the resources to make this happen. We embarked on a journey to create what we call the startup course canvas. Okay, so it's a little bit more extensive. This is the 1.0, and it's about the history of canvases, but this was not made public. Okay, this has only been used at the top business schools, and this is the framework we used to help our students raise the type of capital that they've been able to raise. And so what we've been doing, and this is just interesting, Nalay, I think we finished this, 2 days ago? It's been 2 days now. Yeah. We've actually worked a new version of this, which is the new kind of 2020 version of our canvas. Okay, so this is kind of what we've come up with, and I know it's pretty extensive, and I'm going to go through section by section, but we wanted to change this. This was our goal, right? We wanted to make sure that we could level up and go from here all the way to here. So this is kind of where we are. It's around, I would say, 15 years of research, and we hope that you're going to find some value in it today, right? So we're going to start and we'll go through it. The first section, right, is around ideation, right? And so what happens here is that when you're coming up with an idea, it's important for you to think about what are the triggers, okay? And so a lot of people don't take a moment to think about as many ideas as possible. So we have a way to put a one sentence pitch together on the top left-hand side here. And we have different triggers, right? We even have a website, a free website that you can go, startupbusinessideas.com, to help you generate your idea or pivot your idea. Because some people might be in a situation where they're needing to change or pivot their idea, okay? So keep that in mind, and you can use sticky notes and just throw them here depending on which platform you're using, in Adobe or any online tool. You can just throw your sticky notes here and make it work, right? The next section is around building the right foundation, right? So we talked earlier, and I'm going through the 12 steps. And so what we've done is we've tried to make this as easy as possible for a startup founder to experience and go through. And we've covered the main issues. You can see the questions we have here on the left-hand side, you know, around ownership, legal entity, where to incorporate, you know, all the different components you need. And what we've done is very simple. We've created a video, right, that is embedded, that explains with whiteboard animation very quickly what the concept is about. So you raise your knowledge, and then with sticky notes, you can jump in here and, thinking about how to, share your equity, right? You could do that, and so on and so forth. And so it's important to be able to level up with the concept. Now, Nalay, which video do you think we should show them, by the way? Is there one that you like, you want to show? What are you in the mood for? I know you've watched all these, so what are you in the mood for?
Probably, do the value proposition, because
Let's do that.
something
Okay.
that
Sure.
people have asked about as well. Like, a lot of people were.
Yeah, so what we've done is, using this canvas and sticky notes, you and your team can quickly get to an understanding. And one of the reasons why startup founders fail is that co-founders don't know how to split equity. They go 30, 30, 30, but they don't think about all the different components and leveraging the right elements to make sure that it's fair in the best interest of the child, which is your startup. The next section is thinking big. So what we do is we ask you to think about, again, there's this video that plays here, and this one looks really cool, Nalay. It's like in a little computer thing, right? You'll play a video, but the questions we'll ask you, and again, you just throw a sticky note there, is, what are the social and environmental impacts of your startup? Who are the people that will benefit, and what is the greater purpose of your startup? What is the breakthrough technology? And again, you can put sticky notes here. And finally, what is your moonshot? How are you thinking big so investors are interested in what you're doing? Okay. How do you think beyond yourself? Okay. And then from there, you can establish your mission statement and your vision statement. And again, within 1 hour, you can get all these components there. And remember, every section we're talking about is specifically tailored for what a certain type of investor is looking for, okay? But it's also important for you to know, it's important for you to think big as well. So moving forward, we have the concept of value proposition, okay? Now, Nalay, should I play the video first, or should I go through the session? What do you think? All right. So this is one of the videos, and we're gonna play this video just to kind of give you an inkling, right? And now remember, what we've done is we've taken whiteboard animations as a simple way to explain concepts. And what we've done is we've interviewed and talked to hundreds of experts to make sure that we try to condense all this information and put them in animations. So let's play, let's see what happens here.
Value proposition. I want you to consider this question. When you're at the supermarket, how do you decide which cleaning product to buy? There are literally dozens of options. Do you pick one blindly, or does one brand stand out particularly more for one reason or another? Most people would have a sudden mental image of their preferred product. It could be a vague, "What's that orange bottle?" or a distinct, "That XYZ brand." Perhaps you're the consumer who prefers organic products, so you would most likely pick the green option. Its value to you is that it will do its dedicated job of cleaning, yet remain kind to the environment. Or perhaps you're the type to prefer something strong to ensure the difficult bits get cleaned. So you might pick an extra strength version to guarantee the job gets done. Or like many consumers, you might just want to save a few bucks, so you go for that generic brand with an affordable price. The value of the house brand or generic product is in getting a basic product to get the job done, nothing more, nothing less, and usually at the cheapest price. Regardless of which product you pick, there's a direct link between your choice, your perceived image of the brand, and the value it's being marketed as. Now think about your product. What is the actual value you're providing for your customer? What value sets your product apart from others on the market? The value is called a value proposition, or the why to buy. The why to buy is the most important thing. It is precisely this value proposition, or why to buy, that determines why someone will care enough to buy your product over others in the market. Figuring out your value proposition early is crucial. There is no time for guessing games or last-minute scrambling once you begin marketing a product. If a potential customer can't immediately grasp the value of your product, they are already looking at the next one in the lineup. In today's competitive market, you need to emphasize that value proposition immediately and flawlessly. Did you know that 90% of all purchasing decisions are actually made subconsciously? Traditional marketers place a lot of emphasis on the marketing mix, or the 4 Ps: product, price, placement, and promotion. These were tools meant to help the business plan and execute their marketing strategy. Recently, however, the focus has shifted from the seller to the buyer. As part of your discussion on value creation and proposition, think about solutions, not products, cost, not price, convenience, not place, and lastly, conversation, not promotion. So let's get to solidifying your value proposition to make that lasting first impression. So what makes a good value proposition? Here are 4 key points. It communicates the concrete results on a monetizable pain. In other words, a pain that people will actually spend money on. The problem that your product solves is called the pain point, and it's the first step in creating your value proposition. It's best to focus on one pain point specifically rather than vaguely solving many. A good value proposition says how it's different or better than the competitors offer. The value of your offering is what it does for the customer for its price. Do you know what influences your customer's why to buy decision? The answer here is understanding desires. There will be one desire that your product or service will speak to most powerfully. A good value proposition also avoids hype, like never seen before amazing miracle product, superlatives, best, and business jargon, value-added interactions. Let's say that your target market is anyone who wants to be a startup entrepreneur, but they don't know how to start a company. If your offering shows people how to be an entrepreneur and to create companies, what would you say to them? Customers won't buy a promise alone. They need to have specific examples of how they will be benefited after their purchase. For example, to market a tutorial for potential entrepreneurs, you can market the credibility of your knowledge, how you will deliver the information in an easy-to-process format, and what they can walk away from the tutorial with, such as a business plan draft, elevator pitch, negotiation tricks, etc. This paints a picture for them and helps them envision themselves with the benefits of your product easily. Finally, a good value proposition has clarity. It's easy to understand. Make sure the value is clearly communicated and obvious to grasp. There are many options available for you to communicate value and to inspire your customers to promote your value while building value for themselves. Take some time today to really ponder over what is the value proposition for your offering. At this point in time, you might be wondering, I know my value proposition. I don't need a framework or I don't need to validate this with customers. If you know it, show it. A common problem in business is that the business person knows the value, so they assume that everyone else also gets it. Never assume. A good value proposition also helps the investor to understand your startup's purpose. It will also demonstrate the founder's clarity of mind. Build the value proposition. See how it works. Experiment and evolve it. But you need to work on it. Everyone needs to work on it. The building of your product and the building of your value proposition should be done together. Will my value proposition ever change? The answer is sometimes. Depending on the evolution of your offering and the needs of your customers and markets, you may well see your value proposition changing over time. Printed newspapers and magazines offer a different value in the internet era than they did in the past, and their messaging has needed to evolve with the times. The same goes for physical retail stores in a time when almost everything can be purchased online. The value proposition of a retail store today is fundamentally very different from what it was 20 years ago. In order for your value proposition to be relevant, regularly evaluate whether or not what you're saying about your offering continues to be accurate and continues to work for your customer.
All right. So that's a quick video. Now, the ones that are actually on the platform are a little bit longer. But what we do, just to kind of frame it up, and that video gave me another chance to have a bit of my coffee Malay, so it was a nice breather. But what we do is, we talked a bit about human desires. So when you think about your value proposition, we've put them all here, right? These are the different basic human desires that people look for. And over time, as they evolve as human beings, the learned desires, okay? And so if you think about products like Instagram, right? You have, social approval, companionship, to feel like you're winning and being superior, right? These are all things that Instagram does very well. They do very well on this scale. And then even some of the learned desires, right? You can use the platform to be informed, right? For curiosity, okay? So it's important for you to think about how you're playing. And what we do to make life easy, we ask you to just think about from your product and service, right? What are the pains, the needs and the gains over here. You map it out, and then of a customer, right? What is the customer's pains, needs, and gains? And then what are the features and the experience and the benefits that your product or service has? And see if they line up, okay? And then from there, you can just communicate a very simple value proposition here, right? Where we just tell you how to do it, and you just, again, throw up some sticky notes. And within an hour, we hope that we can level you up, right? 10, 20, 30, maybe even 40% on your value proposition journey, okay? So moving forward, there's a couple of other sections that we cover. The other one is assessing the market, right? So this is how we look at it. And again, there's a video to be played, but you need to understand what the total addressable market is, the serviceable market, right? How many people you can serve, and how many you think you can realistically obtain. Okay, and this is really important for investors as well, and how you can make it real to see how big the opportunity really is. Okay. Moving forward, there was a question on minimal viable product. Okay, what we understand, when you come up with a product, everyone is talking about features, and people argue about features. Should I have this feature or that feature? And usually it just doesn't get people anywhere. And one of the things that we like to do is focus on the emotions and the thoughts of the user, okay? So when you look at this is a user journey map, okay, of Tinder. Now, even if you're married, for some reason, everyone seems to understand the dynamics of a dating app, even if you're happily married. So the thing is that when you look at Tinder, you can see that through the journey of using a dating app, right, there's emotions and thoughts when you start your onboarding, okay? When you do the profile setup, it gets a little bit boring. But then when you start liking or passing, you start to have fun, and then it gets boring because you're swiping. And then finally, at some point in time, Tinder connects you with a match. Now, the match might not be the hottest person on Tinder, but still, you're happy you met somebody, you start chatting, but then you get bored of chatting. And then you're like, okay, let me meet up with somebody, right? And go on a date. And so when you think about these highs and lows, these are the emotions and the thoughts. And so what we say, when you think about any product, whether it's the first product, the second version, third iteration, fourth iteration, what are the emotions and thoughts that your users are going on? That's the fundamental for minimal viable product. And what are the actions and what are the opportunities you have to engage with your customer and hopefully make some money, right? And then from there, what we tell them to do is make it yourself, right? You can actually make your own user journey map here. You just use some sticky notes, and you can make your notes here and do it virtually over Zoom with your team members, right? So it's really easy to do, but really think about the emotions and thoughts as part of your journey, right? And the next section is this idea of customer development, right? This is another question, right? How to get customers. And what we've realized is that getting customers and this idea of talking to customers is really tough for a lot of people, especially like I'm a bit of an introvert. Millie, I don't know if you're that personality type, but getting people to actually go through it is tough. So what we did is we said, hey, let's make it simple. Let's get them to start here, think about a problem, solution, the product, market, and willingness to pay for a specific group, and see if it works with something that we call customer development bingo, okay? So you have your sticky notes here, and you can just check box, whether or not your audience is interested in this. And so what happens is if they're not, what happens is you pivot, you go from here to the next one, you try again, okay? And you keep on talking to different customer groups and concepts until you reach the bottom, which is product market fit. Okay, that's the magic, right? You want to hit the bottom, which is the product market fit, and talking to customers and validate your most riskiest assumptions about what your customer is wanting in their product and service, right? So that's there's a lot of work that goes on this, but what we found is that you try to make it fun. And you get your whole team members, get everyone on board to try and discover where are their unique opportunities. What we found is that more often than not, The end customer that gives you the most amount of money is not somebody that you originally thought. It's usually the 20th person you speak to is your jackpot. Okay, so you might need to pivot a couple of times to make it work. But this makes your life so much easier, because once you figure this out, you're laughing, right? It's a great situation, right? And it's also fun to do a little bit of bingo, right? But don't yell bingo when you're talking to a customer, because they might think it's a little bit a little bit awkward. But thinking about all the different components of why the customer is liking it, and these are the things that you want to ask yourself to really uncover if this is a right product market fit, right? The next section is around execution modeling. This was actually the most popular question, right? Again, we have a video here that explains it, but the key thing around it is understanding how to prioritize. And what we've discovered is, in the startup world, it's not the smartest people, the best looking people, the people with the most amount of money, the people that are at the top business schools and engineering schools. That's not who wins in startup. The people that win in startup are those who prioritize accurately and act according to their priorities. And part of that is understanding, right? What are the things that you're going to do in terms of your product and development, your customer acquisition, your operations, your human resources, which is your team, your finance and fundraising, and then be in a position where you just make a list, right? Dump your list there. And then ask yourself, what are the things that you need to do or the startup will die, and throw them into a very simple matrix. Now, this isn't rocket science, but a lot of startup founders don't do this. What do you have to do that's urgent and important? What is something you can do later? What is something that is not important but urgent, where you can delegate? And what can you eliminate, right? What should you eliminate? These are the questions that you want to ask yourself. And then from there, okay, you should map it out on a timeline. And this is where you start to think about where your value creation mechanisms are coming in. Now, this is an example we use for people that are starting, but even if you have an existing business, you could map out the timings differently, because the key thing is that you have to map out your work against time. If you don't, you're going to find yourself focusing on the wrong issue. So you take what's important and the priorities here, and then you put on what you need to do now, 3 months from now, 5 months from now, and map out the next, 12 to 18 months, okay? No matter what journey you're in, right? And you can change what happens here, but we just use this as an example, okay? And so this is how we do execution modeling. And what it does is it also helps you get consensus from your team, which is also important, okay? Now, moving forward, another challenge is money, running out of cash. A lot of people, even at the top business schools, do not understand good cash flow modeling. So what we've done is we have a video, obviously, that explains the concepts, but these are the key terminology points. And what we do is we believe every single entrepreneur should have a certain level of understanding around money, right? And so what we do is we have things that make you money and things that you spend money on. And you just use sticky notes to map these components out, just to get your team on board and get your thoughts together. And then we have a downloadable cash flow model for startups that you can download and just go through the journey and make work, right? But again, simple activation, no more than an hour, and get everyone to raise their entrepreneurial IQ on startup finance. Another component is around value creation. This is another thing we talked about, being able to raise the value of your business. So how do you raise the value? What is your current valuation, and how do you raise the value, right? And the way to do it is you need to understand the concept of what a fundable event is, or a value creation event. And these are some examples we have here. These are metrics that we talk about, right? Proof that you can build something, proof that you can build an audience, proof that the market likes what you're doing, proof that you can hire people. These are all different things. And what you have to think about is how you are creating value at your product level, your team level, your market traction, as well as your funding in the next 3, 6, 1 year, and 2 year. And what is your valuation? How is that going to grow? Okay. How is this expected value going to grow? Right. And this is how you can defend your valuation when you talk to a startup investor. Investor comes to you and says, what is your company worth? You're like 5 million. Why? Well, I've been working on it for 3 years. That's not a reason. you need to defend it and be in a position where you can get the valuation that you want and ultimately create value for yourself before exit. The next thing is around team, right? So another big question here was around building a solid team. What we've discovered is most founders fall into 3 different types of personality types. The hacker, okay, the person who likes to build the product, the hustler, or the hipster. And so what you want to ask yourself is, okay, what are the skills that the company actually needs? And what do your team members bring to the table, okay? And from there, you can then decide what you're going to outsource, if you're going to hire new people, and which advisors you're going to add to make sure that you have the right village to raise your startup, which is your child, okay? So that's how we look at that. And again, within an hour, you can get this done and all the information is there. The next piece is around getting investment, okay? We have mapped out the different places you can get money from, okay? Doesn't all have to be VCs. There's different places you can get money from and how long it takes and how much equity you have to give up. We've also mapped out how many weeks it takes to raise money, right? How many investors you need to contact, how many investor meetings you need to have, and how many months it takes to raise your money, okay? Or how many months of runway you need to raise for that specific round. And we have this capital strategy framework, which is not optimized for the screen because there's a lot of stuff happening here, but we can talk about, you know, the different areas, you map all your funding requirements out around your close date, your amount, your runway. And what that does, you can also get your funding sources, your pre-money valuation, and all the different components so you can put your mind to rest. Because if you can solve that, right, and know exactly how much money you need at what point in time, and you have that under control, you remove the biggest headache on startup, and that's money, right? Remove the money headache. And part of that is we also have this equity dilution simulator, which can show you how you're going to dilute your equity with your employees, with your advisors, with your co-founders, with every stage of your investor. So you know when you sell your company, you're not building a $100 million company and then just owning 0.5% of equity, okay? You map that out. So moving forward, we're almost done, and I know we're slightly over today. We want to plan your elevator pitching strategy. So what we've done is we've made it as simple and easy to be a good elevator pitcher. And we do elevator pitch workshops on Thursdays. But basically what you can see here is we've itemized, you know, when you go into an elevator, what are the things that you need to say? How do you explain something in a succinct manner? And again, you can just throw some sticky notes here, to virtual sticky notes, to see what you need to put here. So the investor knows what it is. And then we've identified what are the things that an investor is thinking about, right? And you need to answer these questions, right? So throw some sticky notes around that. And then finally, learning how to make an ask, okay? How do you do that, right? And we've mapped it against time, okay? And what the investor is thinking at every different component. And then what you do is you want to map out what is your strategy, the who, the when, the where of your investor outreach, okay? From there, just as kind of final points, we've identified via information and research from Sequoia Capital, the top VCs in the world, what is the pitch deck configuration, right? What are the slides and what are the different topics that you need to cover in what order? Because people ask this all the time. We've also identified how much time an investor will spend on a specific section, okay? This is again based on real-time data, okay? And then from there, some people want to get a certificate. We do the certification. We spend some time online, and you know, this is just kind of our platform piece. But this is kind of the canvas that we've opened now. For the first time, we are now allowed to present and share this with the world. It's 15 years of research. And while you're doing that, we've created a bonus section on navigating startup in COVID-19. So we've created a COVID-19 framework, right? And how you have to think in this time of COVID-19, because investors want to know, and you're probably also wondering, you know, how do you think about how to run a startup during COVID-19? So we've built all these components. We began our research very early on in November when this first hit China, because we do a lot of work in China. And now it's become a global pandemic. So we have this facility available to you. And this is our startup course canvas, right? So this is kind of how we teach. Hopefully there's been some good feedback. Now, in terms of the entrepreneurial journey, we'll just quickly talk a little bit about that and then proceed to concluding. What we do, one of the big goals we have this year is to create jobs. We recognize now in COVID-19, there's job losses around the world. And I believe that entrepreneurs create jobs. It's not governments, it's no one else. It's people like yourself that are investing your time. You could be watching Netflix or doing something else. You're investing the time. And Nalay and I want to leverage all the learning and concepts we have to create jobs around the world. Jobs create happy homes. You know, providing a breadwinner for a family is something that's very near and dear to my heart. And so what we've done is we've kind of created this matrix, and we had this big vision. We're like, how do we create 100,000 jobs? And the first part about it is these master classes. So Nalay and I are talking to, you know, thousands of entrepreneurs every week now. And there's free tools like Startup Business Ideas and these live master classes. So if you're finding value, we hope you see the value in that. The other thing that we've done is we've created basically a digital virtual accelerator program based on the canvas that you just saw. And what we've done is we've realized that a lot of accelerators and incubators, they take your equity, right? They say, okay, come on board, we'll give you some small amount of money and we'll take 5% or 10% of your company, which is a bad move, right? I'm just telling you straight up, because the most expensive thing you can give up is equity. And so what we did is we've taken a non-for-profit model to say, whatever you can pay, just come on board and pay. And if there's value, take it and go create jobs, right? So we're not here to take away your hard-earned equity, but we have a platform that has all these workshops, sales workshops, all the components to help entrepreneurs grow. And then after that, if you need help in terms of raising larger amounts of money and you need some one-on-one coaching, we do make that available. And then we also help in terms of selling companies and exit. So that's kind of what we do. And we hope that you know, there's an opportunity. If you think that there's value in what you've read and what you've seen in terms of our content, we'd be happy to engage. What we do is we'll send you a link at the end. What we do is we do ask you to fill out some information. I know there's been a lot of registrations. If you filled out a registration before the session, we probably have you covered. And then we give you access to the canvas, which is here. This is the old version. The new version is going to launch in the next week or so. So please bear with us. We're just trying to iron out some of the grammatical kinks that we have, but you'll have access to exactly what I just showed you. And then you have an opportunity to have a one-on-one session with Nalay to map out your milestones. And then we try to make it as real as possible. And we have a live virtual pitch event, which we get you in front of other investors and help you really polish what you're doing and make it real. And so that's kind of the journey. And what we've done is we've created a platform. It's a simple non-for-profit model. If you are down on your luck and you only have $1 to spend, that's all you need to pay in the first month. It's a monthly program. It costs us around $100 a month to run per person, but whatever you can do, feel free to be a part of that. We've created a website called jobcreator.startupcourse.com. Nalay will put it in the section here. And would be happy to see if there's any other value that we can create on your journey, right? At the end of the day, your role as an entrepreneur and as a job creator is very, very important in COVID-19. So if there's anything that we can do, and hopefully this hour, there was some value that we created for you, feel free to engage, and would love to have a one-on-one session with you to discuss more on how we can help. Now, there is one last thing that we're going to do before we finish. What I'm going to do is, I know you guys have been patient and you've hopefully learned something throughout the journey. So what we've decided to do is we're going to have a virtual graduation ceremony, okay, for all of you that have attended. We know in Zoom time, we don't get out, we don't really have an engaging experience. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a graduation ceremony for you. We will also give you a LinkedIn endorsement for attending this masterclass. So feel free to add us to LinkedIn and do engage with us. So thank you for joining us. Here we go. right, that's all, folks. Thanks again for joining. I know we were a little bit over time today. See you soon. I'll leave you with these final words from Michelangelo. The greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. With that, on behalf of Nalay and myself and the Startup Course team, look forward to being part of your entrepreneurial journey. We have a couple of other sessions that we run throughout the week. So if you found some value here, feel free to join us for a virtual pitch session on Thursdays, same time, where you can pitch and learn about that. We also have a session around raising entrepreneurial teens, right? So teenagers, if you have kids and you want to rethink about what their future prospects look like and want to think about how to make them innovative entrepreneurs, we run a program on that. And if you're interested in building a startup practice, if you are an investor or wanting to be a startup coach, we have a session on that as well. So with that, I thank you again, and Nalay, thank you again, and that will conclude our session. Have a wonderful day, stay safe, and God bless. Bye now.
Everyone.